Today, we're going to find out how high CleanSpark stock could really go if the most bullish case scenario for Bitcoin ends up playing out. The most bullish case scenario, I believe, is Cathie Wood's $1.5 million price prediction for Bitcoin by the year 2030. Now, that might sound crazy, and it might be crazy with Bitcoin only at $47,000 today, which, doing some quick maths, would mean Bitcoin would have to more than 30x to go over $1.5 million per Bitcoin. And in the process, it would have to overtake the market cap of gold. However, I believe personally that this is actually possible. And there's a couple reasons why, and both of these reasons are coming up very, very soon. The first of which is the approval of the Bitcoin ETF. This should lead to a very large influx of capital into Bitcoin and CleanSpark stock as a result, and one Wall Street analyst even expects the price of Bitcoin to jump to over $100,000 immediately upon the Bitcoin ETF approval.
I think the demand will be greater than the daily supply of Bitcoin, and so the clearing price, this is done by Sean Farrell, who's our crypto digital strategist, is over 150,000. It could even be like 180,000.
And you also have Jim Cramer, who's calling the top for Bitcoin, which that's always good news.
What are we doing with these? You know, let's stop fooling around. If you want Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's topping out, by the way. So I'm going to say enough is enough.
Also, in April of this year, we have what's called a Bitcoin halving event taking place, where the daily new supply of Bitcoin gets cut in half. So if demand skyrockets as a result of the Bitcoin ETF and new supply gets cut in half as a result of the Bitcoin halving event, we could see some fireworks. And if the price of Bitcoin goes up, it could get really exciting for Bitcoin mining stocks, because in the past, Bitcoin miners have been leveraged plays to Bitcoin, meaning if the price of Bitcoin goes up, the mining stocks will go up even more than the price of Bitcoin. This is all fine and dandy until you have a year like 2022. In 2022, Bitcoin miners were literally some of the worst stocks to own because Bitcoin was down. So this is a good time for me to mention, this video is not financial advice. Please be cautious and understand the risks. Bitcoin itself is already a very volatile asset and investment. If you buy Bitcoin mining stocks, you're adding even more risk to this investment because Bitcoin miners have a balance sheet and an income statement. Bitcoin does not. But if you guys are new here or returning and not yet subscribed, please subscribe down below and leave me a comment how high you think CleanSpark stock will go. But I'm going to show you my opinion now. Just yesterday, CleanSpark made a huge announcement that would put them into the #1 spot out of every single Bitcoin mining company. By the end of 2025, if everything goes according to plan, CleanSpark will be the largest public Bitcoin mining company out there. They announced that they're going to purchase 160,000 Bitmain S21 miners, and they announced their path to 50 exahash per second. Right now, the company is at 10 exahash per second. The first batch is expected to ship in the next quarter already, and they also purchased a strategic call option, which gives them the ability to purchase 100,000 additional units at a fixed price of $16 per terahash. The total cost for the first batch was around $200 million, which is crazy for me to think about because when I first started talking about CleanSpark on my channel, their market cap was less than $200 million. So they went from a very, very small company to now a company that's doing $200 million plus deals. And if you want to know why my personal pick is CleanSpark, you can look at Cantor Fitzgerald's projected all-in cost per coin analysis for the first quarter of 2024. When they made this, the price of Bitcoin was $28,000. Obviously, it's climbed above that to $47,000. But when this analysis was made, you can see that CleanSpark by far has the lowest all-in cost to mine out of any of these companies. So with CleanSpark, we have a combination now of a company with the best unit economics out of any of the miners already, and a company that's going to be the biggest out of any of these miners by the end of 2025. CleanSpark's all-in cost, according to Cantor Fitzgerald, is shy of $14,500, which means with the price of Bitcoin at $47,000, their gross margin on mining is well above $30,000. And this is an even bigger deal when we consider the halving event that's going to take place in April. Let me break this down for you. On the screen now, you should be able to see the total revenue opportunity for Bitcoin mining today. Daily, the total revenue opportunity for any company that wants to mine Bitcoin, the total pool of revenue is shy of $45 million. Annually, that works out to just above $16 billion of total revenue that Bitcoin mining companies fight for. However, if I slide over, you can see how the economics of mining changes significantly after the halving event, because the total amount of Bitcoin available to be mined gets cut in half every day. So instead of a nearly $45 million daily revenue opportunity, if the price of Bitcoin stays the same at $47,000, the total revenue pool for all miners also gets cut in half to just about $23.5 million or $8.5 billion annually. This is why the price of Bitcoin typically goes up significantly around the time of Bitcoin halving events, because Bitcoin mining has to be profitable in order for the Bitcoin network to remain secure. These halving events take place every 4 years or so there's another one that's going to take place in 2028, where again the total revenue opportunity gets cut in half if the price of Bitcoin stays the same. Even if you have the same amount of computing power, you mine half the amount of Bitcoin you were before, which is why these unit economics are so important. And I've factored this into my price target spreadsheet, where currently CleanSpark owns about 3% of the total Bitcoin mining network. By the year 2030, because CleanSpark is the most profitable miner and because they have such aggressive growth plans, I have them approaching 9% of the total network. However, with everything in this spreadsheet, it's extremely difficult to predict numbers 5-6 years in the future. So these numbers are bound to be wrong. These are just my personal best guess as of now as to what's going to happen. Today, CleanSpark is mining about 800 Bitcoin per month, and by the end of 2024, I expect it to remain unchanged because of the company's aggressive growth that it has in front of it. By 2025, I have the company mining over 900 Bitcoin per month, and by 2027, I have the company mining close to 1,100 Bitcoin per month. In 2024, I have the price of Bitcoin averaging about $100,000, which represents nearly $1 billion of revenue for CleanSpark. And in 2025, I have the price of Bitcoin going up to $150,000, and so on and so forth, all the way until we get to 2030, when I have the price of Bitcoin reaching $1.5 million and the company doing nearly $11 billion in annual revenue. To put that into perspective, right now, the total market value of CleanSpark is just $2 billion. And over time, I expect the company to add to its HODL balance, which means they're going to add more and more Bitcoin to their balance sheet that they are holding on to for the long term. By 2030, I expect the company to have 57,000 Bitcoin on its balance sheet, and at $1.5 million per Bitcoin, that would be worth $85 billion. But of course, CleanSpark is still a company with an income statement and a balance sheet, so I did my best to estimate what I think their total cost of revenues and operating expenditures will be every single year. I expect the company's cost to grow significantly this year in 2024 and next year in 2025 as a result of the company's aggressive growth plans, but over time, I expect the growth in costs to diminish every single year. Specifically after 2028, which would be when the next halving event takes place, I expect the company's costs to remain pretty flat year over year. I don't think the company is going to be growing its hash rate nearly as aggressively as it is today, 5 and 6 years down the line, and that goes for all of the Bitcoin mining companies. At a certain point, this arms race will end, and there will be winners and there will be losers. Every halving event that takes place will present acquisition and merger opportunities. But taking these costs into account, again, they're going to be wrong. I'm trying to project things 5, 6 years, 7 years into the future. It's going to be wrong. But as of now, I have the company doing a gross income of $7.7 billion. From here, we can take the company's total revenue figures, their gross income figures, and also their Bitcoin HODL balance to come up with a potential value for CleanSpark stock. If you want access to this spreadsheet, it is available to all of my paid monthly members. If you want to join, hit the join button down below, located right next to the subscribe button, or hit my Patreon link in the pinned comment. We have the best community out there. It's the cheapest membership on YouTube, and if you don't like it, you get a full refund. So it's a risk-free investment. I would love to see all of you join. But as you can see, I've done both a price to sales analysis and a price to earnings analysis, both taking into consideration the potential value of the company's HODL balance. And all of this being said, I think by 2030, CleanSpark investors from here could see a 3,419% return. By 2030, I think the fair value of the company could be $377. But let me show you what can change this significantly, and this is a risk with owning Bitcoin mining stocks. It's this fancy little figure here, assumed recurring share dilution. You see, since this arms race that Bitcoin miners are going through is so capital intensive, they have to raise capital somehow. And the debt markets have not been an option because it's extremely risky to lend money to the Bitcoin mining space as of now. And you also have the fact that interest rates have been very, very high. Through 2030, my assumed recurring share dilution is 30%, meaning every single year there's going to be a 30% increase to the total shares outstanding of these companies. This might be low and it might be high depending on what the debt markets do, how much debt capital comes to Bitcoin miners, where interest rates are, etc. However, you have to remember, as CleanSpark stock goes up, the company has to dilute less and less to raise the amount of money they want to raise. If the company wanted to raise $10 million via dilution and the stock price was only $1 per share, they would have to issue 10 million new shares to the markets. However, if the share price is $10 per share, to raise that same $10 million, they would only have to dilute an additional 1 million shares. So over time, I do expect this number to come down. If I had to guess, 30% is actually slightly high. But just let me show you what could happen if I am wrong. If the recurring share dilution is actually 40% instead of 30%, you can see how my price target goes down significantly, and I only expect to see 2,500% return, which would not be good. And I know that might sound crazy, 2,500% return not being good. What do you mean? Well, we already discussed at the beginning of this video, from Bitcoin to go to $1.5 million, it would have to more than 30x, meaning if you bought Bitcoin and it reached $1.5 million, you would see at least 3,000% return on your investment today by the time it hits $1.5 million. So if you owned Bitcoin miners and you only saw 2,500% return, you would have been better off just buying Bitcoin itself and avoiding the additional risks of owning these Bitcoin mining stocks. However, the other side of this gets very, very fun. Let's say that 30% is too high for recurring share dilution. It actually averages out to be 25% every single year. Well, then right now, I think we could see 5,700% return from here until 2030. And I think the fair value for the stock in 2030 would be over $600. And if this is the case, you would beat the return of Bitcoin significantly. So as the years go by, let this be a lesson that we need to pay attention to how much dilution is taking place every single year. If this is a pattern where dilution does not slow down, it might be best to sell our Bitcoin miners and buy Bitcoin itself. However, if dilution does slow down significantly year by year, which I think it will, then owning Bitcoin mining stocks is the answer. And I think CleanSpark stock could see tremendous return by 2030. If you guys think I should turn this into a video series where I do an analysis like this for every single Bitcoin mining company, also let me know that down in the comment section. And if you are new here or returning not and subscribe, don't forget to subscribe down below. Leave me a like. It helps me out tremendously. With that, have a great rest of your day. Stay blessed. Keep 10 toes to the ground and your chin up. Peace out.